And you were actually working the game last night, not the late game, fortunately, but the early game, Buccaneers at the Lions. Both games played out the same way. First half feels like the home team should have been dominating in the scoreboard. They weren't. Almost identical scores. One was 14-6, one was 14-3. Second half, never felt like you could quite put them away. They were still hanging around, and that's kind of how both games went, which didn't make for exciting games. But we saw a couple of teams that I think are going to be in the mix when it's all said and done, who won the games, the Lions and the Seahawks.
Yeah, and we saw some unbelievable individual play. I think starting in Detroit, it was funny because looking at all the notes and stuff coming into the game, everything was about Montgomery. Montgomery's not getting enough touches. They want to find a way to use him more, and then Jahmyr Gibbs starts the first drive, doesn't come out of the game, and next thing you know, it's a 78-yard touchdown. He's just so dynamic. It just feels like Detroit. They're trying to find a way to get Montgomery more on the field, but as you watch Gibbs, it's like, man, if we keep giving him the ball a few times a game, 15 carries, maybe another 3 or 4 touches in the pass game, we're going to get 2 or 3 explosive plays. And he just looked like he was moving at a different speed last night than the whole Tampa Bay Bucks defense. And I mean, just unbelievable. From beginning of the game, I thought Detroit came out and they just said, all right, we lost last week. There's a reason we haven't lost back-to-back games and 50 attempts at this. And it's because I think Dan Campbell's the best at when his team's in a situation, pulling them along, whether it's injuries, whether it's coming off a loss. He just motivates his team. And I think a lot of it is he's just real with them. He's upfront. He lets them know the situation they're in, what they need to do, and the guys believe in that. I mean, you watch the energy, the effort, and just the technique and execution that secondary played with last night. Like there were guys off the practice squad, guys that were third and fourth string. I mean, Nick Whiteside was a backup to these guys who were playing that were already backups. And yeah, Rock Ya-Sin goes down. He comes in the game. He finishes with 2 pass breakups. Like he was all over the field. It was unbelievable to watch that team play last night.
It is amazing when you see that unfold where the guys who are backups for a reason are pressed into service due to injuries, a suspension of Brian Branch, and they just find a way to make it happen. I mean, it reminds me of kind of the approach that the Patriots, the first time around, with the 3 Super Bowl wins in 4 years, where the middle class, they had enough money, they had enough cap space, they could have competent backups, better than your usual backups.
Mhm.
So the attitude was next man up, no excuses, do your job, no woe is us if there are injuries. And the Lions had that same attitude, maybe not the same quality of backup until it's time for them to go play and they're coached up and they're ready to go. But just the attitude that we're never going to make an excuse. We're never going to say, woe is us. We're never going to say it's not our day. It's not our week. It's not our year. And I think Dan Campbell, one of the best things he does, Devin, he pushes those buttons to get the guys to accept their situation, to not feel like forces beyond our control are out to get
Mhm.
us in some way, or we're just not lucky. We just go do what we can do with what we have.
Yeah, and the unbelievable thing about it, I'm the former defensive back. I'm sitting here talking game plan, what they might do, and I'm like, well, Kelvin Shepard, he's gonna have to play more zone. It's gonna be more basic than what they usually do. You have a group of guys that haven't played a lot, and most importantly, they haven't had a lot of game time. Decision making, communication. Detroit comes out and plays a ton of man-to-man coverage. Mike Evans is healthy. Emeka Ibuka is healthy. He's out there playing, and still the first drive, I think it was 3 or 4 plays. They played man. They only played zone one time, and I thought that was as big of a message as anything for them to come out and say, "We have a lot of guys banged up. You have guys coming back. We don't care. We're going to come out, get in your face." And I think the approach allowed them to still play tough against the run. They kept a safety in the box, and they were able to keep pressure on Baker Mayfield. He never had kind of those like great Baker Mayfield moments where he's kind of moving left, moving right, extending the play. they avoided that because the pressure was always coming to them. So credit to Shepard to believe in those guys and for them to go execute.
And I think that also emanates not just from the head coach, Dan Campbell. I think that the intensity, the tenacity, the no hesitation, the ability to be ready to go get in your face, I think that all flows from Amon-Ra St. Brown, frankly. I think that's the
Mhm.
attitude he's brought to that team and he's infused in his teammates. He's that guy that you love him if he's your teammate, although there are certain days you hate him.
Yeah.
You hate him if you have to go against him. But I think he demands, and you need accountability from within the locker room. I just get the impression that he has a level of expectation for himself and others that he's very vocal about. He's very determined. It's infectious. And I think it's critical. If you can get that kind of leadership from a non-quarterback, I think that makes it even more potent. And you see the results. They're never unprepared, and they're never down in the mouth, and they never make excuses. They just go out and they keep doing what they're supposed to do. And we saw how determined he was last night after he had that key drop against the Chiefs. I just think that Amon-Ra and his overall approach to football and life is something that has lifted that team to the point where you can do the interchangeable parts thing and it just won't matter.
Yeah, and that's a good point. It looked like it was important for them as an offense. They got him going early. First play of the game, he comes out, they throw him an out route. He gets wide open. I mean, he runs a unbelievable route on Jamel Dean. Now, Goff misses him. But I think the first like 5 or 6 plays were three throws to him, and catching it. And I think one of the things that really describes what you said is the way he even finishes any pass he catches, the way he finishes, the way he blocks. And you talk about that leadership. Look how it's really shown off on Jamison Williams. Like he didn't have a big game at all. And as you watch, he's getting rolled up on from behind because he's blocking his butt off when guys are catching the ball. He does everything. And I think Brad Holmes, the GM of the Lions, they go and they find these guys that fit that mold. Aiden Hutchinson, I mean, he doesn't stop. The motor continues to go. You watch Anzalone, you watch Jack Campbell, coming into the game, they talked about Jack Campbell meeting with Kelvin Shepard every week, one-on-one, so he can go through the why of the scheme. Why are we running this call? Why do we like this way? And I think when you look at that and you have a bunch of guys that are not only kind of like maniacs, like Julian Edelman was a little bit like that, blocked you too long in practice. Maybe it was a block in the back, maybe it held, like just annoying you. But these guys are also like football nerds. They study the game, they understand football at a high level. So you put that together with their natural ability, the motor, and the want to create this team that even though we don't know Thomas Harper, Arthur Marlette hadn't played a lot. Like we don't really have household names. Those guys follow the guys that have been out there. They follow the leaders on the team. So I'm watching these guys get in the secondary. They're playing with a chip. They're celebrating every incomplete pass. Like they're out there like we're supposed to be out here. And I think that's because they do. When they go against St. Brown in practice, he gives them that confidence going forward. And it's really cool to see not just the winning for Detroit, but the culture that they built with the guys that they have in the locker room.
Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.